There we go. Live streaming away. How we doing, folks? Reasonable people. Yeah, sometimes Solemn Peace, they do hide the notifications. Or it's not that they hide the notifications. Sometimes we chew through all of our notifications, and you only get so many. And so you may not get a live stream, depending on how many other videos we've recently put out. All right, let's do this. What do you say? It's Taco Tuesday. Should we celebrate Taco Tuesday with a live stream and just do some stuff? I just want to make sure, give the live stream a little bit of time here and make sure we're going. All right, we got Chrome there. Yep. Looks good. Let's do this. No, not that one. Start off with that angle. 2 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday, correct. 11 a.m., Christy. Seattle time. Tuesday and Thursday. That's what we're thinking. That's kind of what we're going with for the live streams. And just to kind of reiterate, what I'm doing is I'm basically taking what I would normally record, which is I normally record 3 podcasts Monday through Friday. And that way we have some extras for moving forward, and then also for Saturday and Sunday, so I don't have to come in and do that. Well, all I'm doing is doing a live stream of the 3 that I would just normally be recording sitting in my office by myself, but you guys get to be involved, and thanks for being here. So let's do this. And so that's why they've got these weird pauses where I'm like looking at a screen, you're like, what's he doing? I'm kind of getting ready to do my intro just like I would normally. But you guys are here. So, all right, I've already said it a couple of times. Let the shenanigans begin. Tristan, here we go. So here's what some private security teams are doing in Las Vegas. Las Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. This is to address squatters. You have got an incredible ramp up of squatters in Vegas in vacant apartments as evictions rise. Let's check this out. Here we go. All right, we got a video. We need to watch a video. See if I can not F up the beginning of the intro here. And all right, this button. No, that button. How about that button? And I've already kind of got this gal teed up. Tristan, and here.
The Las Vegas Valley is home to hundreds of apartment complexes.
Some of these apartment complexes that we are contracted on have upwards of 150 vacant units on one property.
Chief Jonathan Alvarez is the CEO of Protective Force International. His private security team contracts with more than 300 apartment complexes in town. Many with the same issue, squatters taking over.
For some of these folks, home is right upstairs or right next door to one of those vacant units.
The problem has gotten so bad that the security team has created their own task force just to handle this issue. Sergeant Jailyn Thompson is the head of it. With the county evictions continuing to rise, the problem isn't going anywhere.
It's just a big fire we're attempting to put out.
The security team sharing exclusive video with Fox 5 showing the task force going into a vacant unit.
Clear.
And it's not just squatters looking for shelter.
We, essentially have found trafficked children in them. They constantly find narcotics and drug use. There have been fires.
The team can never tell what's behind the doors, so they're prepared for any danger lurking.
We have had officers that have been attacked with knives, with pipes, so we train for that unknown.
Most likely they'll have a shield with them. If it's a higher threat, like responding to an active shooter, active assailant, they'll probably
a shield. You're going in with a shield because you're going to take down some squatters. You're going to take down some stinky squatters.
they'll don their helmets on.
And while they have boots on the ground, their drone can capture anyone trying to escape them. The team also works with Metro Police for when they do suspect there's criminal activity going on inside the units. They suggest property owners or management to not post exactly which unit they have available, because that's a key giveaway for a squatter to know they can move right on in. John.
All right, Victoria, thank you. And we should say that Victoria did reach out to the Clark County to get.
Don't care. Boring. Don't care. So let's be clear. Let's be clear. These are not people that have a dispute. These are with their landlord. These people are just going in these big, massive complexes, busting open windows and moving in. So big complexes have big resources. So they've got a team of 5 guys that you saw there? And they're literally just, all right, here's the guy with the shield. And you can see all the rest of them are kind of going in. What is that? Law enforcement or combat style, the formation? Let's get everybody all together and hide behind the guy with the shield. And man, I mean, it's nutty, right? You've got so many vacancies that this is a thing. And you're seeing this elsewhere because you got the whole homeless thing, right? Homeless people are getting pushed out of the shelters because, oftentimes they're in sanctuary cities and they're competing with the illegal immigrants for space and shelters. And so they're going to bust into places that, they normally might not. There's a new complex over in Seattle where I've got my boat, new, I don't know, is it 8 townhomes, something like that? They've got a big, huge fence around it. There's a homeless encampment just up the hill, half a block up the hill. You got a big fence around it, but they've got the bottom windows. This is a beautiful complex overlooking the lake. I mean, it's right there. It's literally Lake Union is right there. Seaplanes going right down in front of it. They've got the first floor boarded off with plywood to keep squatters out. I mean, it's just such a terrible look on an in-progress development, but that's what you got going on. You got people, I don't want to work. I just want to do a bunch of drugs. Maybe throw in a little human trafficking shenanigans in there as well. And, that's what we're going to have happen. So let's read the article. Thousands of people have lost their homes in Clark County since the pandemic, which creates an opportunity for squatters to move in. The Las Vegas Valley is home to hundreds of apartment complexes, but there are many empty units within them. Some of these apartment complexes that we contracted have upwards of 150 vacant units. We heard him say that. Alvarez private security team contracts with more than 300 apartment complexes in town to patrol, and many are dealing with squatters taking over. For some of these folks, home is right upstairs or right next door to those vacant units. The problem has gotten so bad that PFI, that's the company that's going in and doing the squatter raid, getting rid of the squatter shenanigans, right? They created a task force just to handle the issue. Sergeant Thompson is the head of it. There's that video we watched. They say with the county evictions continuing to rise, the problem is not going anywhere, according to Alvarez and his team. It feels just like a big fire we are attempting to put out, Sergeant Thompson said. Security team shared exclusive video with Fox, which showed the task force going into it. That's what we just watched. It's not just squatters. They're looking for shelter. We've essentially found trafficked children, narcotics. It's the same old story, isn't it? People taking advantage of other people's property. And in a big apartment complex, you've got lots of opportunity to, jump into a unit. And we get so many units that people don't know. Is that the new guy? Don't know if that's the new guy. They seem to be coming and going. Yeah, just wild. So get some water here. This part was really interesting to me. While the task force has boots on the ground, they use their drone to capture anyone trying to escape them. I mean, what are you going to do, though? All right, we found him. Yep, he's over there. I guess you're going to identify. I've been flying my drone a lot lately, just practicing. We've got the summer sunsets are going to be here in the Pacific Northwest. I want to I'm going to be able to fly my drone and just kind of get that panoramic. I'm not looking for squatters and their ridiculousness. That's not what I'm doing. But I could see, you're going to chase after them, and then you're going to have to bring somebody with a car up to get them wherever they've gone to, that kind of thing. That's interesting, though, drones, right? The task force also works with Metro Police for when they do suspect there is criminal activity going on inside the units. They suggest property owners and managers to not post exactly which unit they have available, because that's a key giveaway for a squatter to know that they can move in. Yeah, this past weekend, I did a video on a squatter. He's a squatter. He was started off as a tenant in Bellevue, and he's just been squatting, and he has just racked up, I can't remember, is it $80,000 of rent and late fees and all that jazz? I mean, it's an incredible number. It's $4,500 a month in rent. And we're not talking that here in Vegas. But what you're talking about is huge numbers of units. And if some of those are vacant, people are taking advantage of them. And that's literally kind of what we're working on here. So this was an interesting story from the standpoint of, all right, here is large scale what people are doing to stop the eviction, not the eviction, but stop the takeover of space that isn't somebody else's. You've got downtown areas, and a lot of big cores right now have vacant commercial space. You're not necessarily seeing that because it's tough to live in commercial space, right? Oftentimes you don't have a shower, you don't have all that stuff, but these apartments are ready to roll. So this was an interesting one from the standpoint of, okay, you got a bunch of vacant apartments, people are breaking in, what do you do? And so clearly these squatters are not coming at it from the standpoint of, hey, wait a minute, we've got a lease. So what we saw was the SWAT team go in on vacant units. My mind kind of goes to what happens when there is somebody in there and you've got the SWAT team and they say they have a lease and they don't. What happens there? Because that's what we're seeing with single family homes as well, right? You're seeing single family squatters with what they claim are leases, and then the police say that it's a civil matter, and so you got to take it to court. And here in Washington State, the courts almost always side on the side of the dirty, stinky squatter, right? Person not paying their tent. They're not paying their rent, not their tent. They may have a tent, but yeah, they're squatting in the apartment. So you're seeing the rise of, squatters. You're seeing the rise of evictions happen because a lot of this is on the tail end of the pandemic. And there are still tenants out there that are holding on. We're seeing that in Seattle. They've just delay after delay after delay. And the guy that I went to go support, the landlord in Bellevue, and you can check out that video if you want. Jonathan Cho did a good one that got on, it's on our channel. Jonathan Cho did a segment that was on Fox and Friends, and you can see me in the background a couple of times. I don't know why Jonathan didn't clip it, but here I am with my camera, shooting my footage that you can see on this channel, and Jonathan was running around. And then there's some smaller channels covered Jonathan's footage on the Discovery Institute, people going up and just banging on this squatter's door and just making him feel uncomfortable. Because I think that's what you have to do. If somebody's going to game the system, you got to make them feel uncomfortable. You can't necessarily trespass. And at one point in time, there were a number of people at the squatter home that I was in at a Bellevue this past weekend. There were some people beating on the front door. There were some people yelling, chanting, which you can do legally from the sidewalk, but you can't go up there and engage. Although that's how you get the good footage, right? So I was right behind Jonathan Cho as he's, hey, are you in there? What are you doing in there? Come out. You can check out Jonathan's footage as well. Pretty funny stuff. I mean, this guy deserves it. If you haven't paid rent and you're reaching out to, these entities that cover, people that get arrested for doing protests, Black Lives Matter protests, Antifa protests, and then there's these entities that pay their bond money, and then they also help out people that are being evicted. But there's a whole system out there that people are abusing to keep, their ability to stay in these private residents. But this large scale one that we just looked at here with the evictions, or not the evictions, I keep saying evictions, but they're just throwing people out or throwing their stuff out. This is kind of more of a private matter within a big project, a big development. And so it's interesting to see them we didn't see them bust the door down, but I'm sure they do that as well, because I'm sure tenants have gotten in there, not tenants, but squatters have gotten in there and they're just doing their thing. And sometimes you got to bust the door down. So we didn't see anything saying, hey, the police are involved because, you got a landlord's rights versus the tenant's rights, and we're going that direction. This is more just taking care of your own property. And that's one of the things that I talked about with just some dude that came down the road at the protest I was at, or the rally for the landlord, get that tenant out of there. But a guy drove down, and you can see it in the video. He's like, hey, what's going on? And I didn't know, but he worked for the landlord, the guy that's trying to get the tenant out. And we were talking real quick, and he was saying, this wouldn't happen in a third world country. People would just basically go in, grab the tenant, jerk him out by the collar, and throw him out into the street. And you just wouldn't have that kind of thing. Whereas we've got, 10 ways from Sunday, the court systems here in the United States, and especially in, blue cities, the court systems, blue cities and blue counties and blue states, the court systems just coddle these squatters that are trespassing, and they're working the system. It's a real epidemic out there, and you're seeing more and more of that. And this story specifically to me was interesting because this is just a large scale of what the guy is describing. Hey, this wouldn't happen in a third world country. You just go in there, you grab the guy, and you do what you got to do, and you kick him to the curb, you kick out all of his stuff. But oftentimes these squatters now, they're getting pretty smart. They're making up fake leases. They're going down all these roads. They're creating utilities accounts to be able to support the fact that they live in the unit. They're never going to pay these utility accounts, but they're going to be able to show it to a judge, and the judge doesn't know any difference. The judge is like, all right, there's a utility statement. All right, guess we got proof of occupancy, something along those lines. But what we're hearing more of, and what Jonathan Cho talked about, was vigilante landlords, vigilante communities, just basically not allowing the squatters to take, possession of an apartment, to take a possession of a house, to take possession of whatever. We're talking about just people kind of dealing with their own. And that's what I'm hearing more and more of on this topic is, hey, yeah, I know it's not legal, but, and so everything up into that but, what I always say is that, well, that's the real stuff. But here's what I did. I had my contractor get together with somebody with a really big hammer, and, they went in and they just basically tossed the people out. Because if you get the court system involved, it becomes just such an upside down nightmare. And these squatters know that there are resources out there for them to basically just spin their wheels for years on end. And at the protest I was at, the rally that I was at, that same tenant had done it to another landlord in a different home. So he was literally a serial squatter. And Jimmy, the landlord, he's not sure. He's just going at one hearing after another, and then he's got these remote hearings, and people don't show up, judges don't show up, and it's just this nightmare. Meanwhile, every month he's making a mortgage payment, and the squatter is just living there, and squatters got two brand new cars in the driveway. You're like, how does that work? This guy's just so bad. But what was funny is they did put up. Well, you know what? I'm going to show a little bit of video. Let's show it. It's pretty funny. If you haven't seen it, this is funny. I'll get this going here. I think we go here.
Service expert do your taxes as soon as today.
Book time to do lots of nothing. Lazy boy, long live the lazy.
My wife has a saying, no pay, no stay. Yeah. And that's what I think we should be shouting at this guy. Yeah. No pay, no stay. No pay, no stay.
No pay, no stay. No pay, no stay. That's what you're doing.
No pay,
There's Jonathan.
no pay. It's a broken system.
Yeah,
we got Jonathan Cho on the scene.
Saying, stop embarrassing your family. Incredible
What's going on, Jonathan?
turnout here.
See, I'll forward through until, yeah, here we go. We're banging on the door.
No, we're not doing that. What is top property? Off the property, man.
Here's where the cops came.
We're not doing that. Sir, I'm asking you a question.
A lot of drama. A lot of drama.
Wow. Yeah. Police. You guys could do.
Check out that video if you want. It's like, what is it, 18 minutes long? Something like that. 1743. There's a lot of, kind of wild stuff in there. And it just kind of shows these tenants can get in and they can hunker down and they are like trying to get ticks out, right? From underneath the surface of the skin. Just, they burrow down and you just need to, I don't know what you need to do to get them out. But in Vegas, we're just taking the SWAT team in and, all right, you're out of here. You're gone. All right. Tristan, I'm going to do the outro here. Get this going. So what I'm going to leave you with on this one is, you can't just hire your own SWAT team to go out there and just take care of tenants. But there are alternatives, right? There are alternatives, and we're hearing more and more of that. People coming up with creative solutions because the court systems are just, they take too long and they're not doing their thing. And oftentimes they protect these scumbag, dirtbag, non-rent paying tenants. And these guys need to be thrown out. They need to be thrown to the curb. So, I hope this podcast here kind of gave you a little bit of an idea on a large scale. Here's what people are doing. Can you scale that down to something that is safe and, do that yourself? That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for contributing. Love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Hit the notification bell. We're releasing 2 a day, Monday through Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now. All right. Live stream people, we're going to keep going. Gay squatters. You guys are talking about gay squatters. Interesting. I'm sure that's a thing too. Pay on the side for that service. See what else you guys are talking about. Watch No Country for Old Men. That is a great movie. I just watched that the other day. No Country for Old Men. And get one of those things that punches out door locks. Yeah, it punches out door locks, but ultimately, I think it was used to kill cattle. It punches a thing through their head and just, yeah, it's an air compressor deal. That was a great movie. I saw that not long ago. That movie was actually filmed in Eagle Pass, where I was down at the southern border. So yeah, another good movie. Another good movie on that I've talked about before is Pacific Heights. That had Melanie Griffith and Michael Keaton. He was the bad guy, and that was a great movie of how you don't want your really nice renovated triplex to end up in San Francisco. That was literally in, you know, they shot it in San Francisco, and the storyline was San Francisco. What was that? 30 years ago, something like that, 20 years ago? I don't even know. It was a while ago. But another example of what happens when a tenant who knows what they're doing gets in and just starts monkeying up the system. Not good. Not good at all. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. Okay. Streaming still going. Everything's looking good. It's looking good, folks. No screw ups yet. You just never know. You never know when one's going to come your direction. Here's an interesting one that caught my eye. All right. Here we go. Tristan? As foreclosures risk, 2 words. Couldn't get out more than 2 words. All right, here we go. As foreclosure risks rise, nearly half of downtown Pittsburgh office space that could be empty in 4 years. Half of downtown Pittsburgh empty. Where are those folks gone? Where's that tax revenue gone? Oh, what are the implications? It's not looking good. And we just had the Pittsburgh police tell us, yeah, they're not going to answer most of the phone calls coming in unless somebody's getting hurt or is in dire, dire need of 911. Let's get into this. Here we go. Yeah, how about this one? Let's just watch a little bit of this one. This was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, Susan, residents of the city will see a major change in the way police respond. They will no longer respond to calls that aren't considered in-progress emergency. That means calls like criminal mischief, theft, harassment, and most burglary alarms will all be handled by an enhanced telephone reporting unit. That means residents...
Okay, that's the only time I'm going to stop this. An enhanced telephone reporting unit. An answering machine. Your call is going to go to an answering machine. If you're in Pittsburgh, and you're like, is this 911? Oh, please leave a message. We're not here. We'll catch up with you in a week from Sunday. How excited would you be to hear that? Your hard-earned taxpayers' dollars, somebody's breaking into your place. I guess it's a burglary in progress. This is nuts. This is nuts. But, you know, it's not shocking, right? It's not shocking. And the fact that you've got the situation you do in downtown as foreclosures risks rise, I mean, this is happening all across the United States, because this isn't just a downtown Pittsburgh problem. This is an all over problem because of the work from home. And what I kind of want to talk this one through is the same thing that's happening here in Pittsburgh is going to be happening on different varying levels throughout the United States and internationally too. There's a lot of space in other countries that's being cut down. Assessment cuts for downtown buildings could cost city, county, and Pittsburgh schools nearly $8.4 million in tax refunds for 2023 tax year. So you've got building values coming down. You've got tax revenues coming down. You don't have enough cops. I mean, you've just got these perfect situations for these, smaller, big cities, I call them. Pittsburgh's got 300,000 in its immediate metro area, but bigger than that, 2.5 million, something like that. When you look at the surrounding population, it's kind of like Seattle has 700,000, but when you start looking at Seattle and Tacoma and Everett, 2.5 million, something like that. So the downtown office crisis could be worsening, with nearly half of all office space empty by 2028. And more than 24 buildings in danger of foreclosure, according to one confidential report. Faced with a grave scenario, and this is the same scenario that cities all across the U.S. are being faced with right now. Pittsburgh City Councilman Bobby Wilson is drafting legislation that would remove a $250,000 limit on the amount of tax relief available to a building owner or developer as long as a project creates at least 50 full-time equivalent jobs. Nobody cares. That's not going to move the needle at all. The problem you've got is that you've got higher interest rates right now, and you've got a situation where lots of companies have left their office space. They're no longer occupying it. They don't need it. And so as these owners of these big buildings go to do a refinance of their commercial loan, number one, their numbers are way down because they don't have the people, they don't have the tenants occupying them. And then number two, the cost has gone through the roof of borrowing at 3% versus 7%. I mean, it's astronomical. So whatever kind of incentive you can do to get tenants into the downtown core, there's just not as many companies or employees working in the downtown core anymore. The average occupancy or the average number of offices that are being occupied on a regular weekly basis is about 50%, up from in the 30s. And that's not occupancy rate. That is how much are the buildings being occupied by tenants that are paying and are current. How often are they going in? It's about half. And I talk about Amazon all the time. Amazon has they don't have a hard written in concrete, but it's 3 days a week you got to be in the office. So, you got 60% there. And then you got other companies that are like, a day or two a week is fine, or maybe we meet once every 2 weeks and do that kind of thing. But these cities are and some of them are spending big money on the migrant crisis, right? And then you've got your income from your commercial base is being restricted. And this is just an absolute recipe for disaster. And it's ongoing because your tax base from commercial is oftentimes what pays such a big portion of the city's expenses. Owners and developers would also be eligible for uncapped abatement of 10%. Okay, we don't care about that because none of this stuff is going to work. You need to figure out where your money's going to come from to pay your bills, and trying to get people back into the downtown core. That's not really working right now. That's not really going anywhere. Even in cases where a building owner or developer can't meet the requirements for the full abatement, they could still qualify for some kind of relief under legislation. Yeah, but nobody's going to want to do it. If you know that there is a downward trend towards commercial office space, which there is right now, San Francisco is the prime example of that. You're going to get to 40% vacancy rate in San Francisco. I just covered, a number of buildings that are basically going back to their owners, and you've got some big lenders. You've got lenders. It just did one in New York City. Biggest property manager there is trying to pull out of a mall that's over the top of transit authority. It's got like 8 different subway lines. The management company is trying to pull out in New York City because it's costing them so much with the homeless and the drugs, and it's just this nightmare. Right? It's just this nightmare. So your downtown cores are just taking a beating. So Mr. Wilson is advancing the new legislation at a time of growing turmoil downtown involving Tristan Cutt, and let's go with Mr. Wilson is advancing the new legislation at a time of growing turmoil downtown involving some of its biggest and most iconic skyscrapers. So far, the property assessments on 10 buildings, including U.S. Steel Tower, PPG Place, and the tower at PNC Plaza, they've been slashed by $364.4 million for the 2023 tax year. So the assessors know that, these values have dropped. They've fallen from the sky, right? As high vacancies drive down their income. Another factor has been the steep drop to 63.5% from 87.5% in the common level ratio. I couldn't figure out what that was. They say it's the number used to compute taxable value in county assessment appeal hearings. Okay, so bottom line is the county is just bleeding out money because they don't have the revenue coming in from the taxes from all the downtown space being occupied. Never mind the loss of all the businesses that are no longer there, the employees there, the small little stores, the little shops, the little bodegas, whatever it is, those are just no longer there because so many companies have figured out a work from home solution, or they just don't need all that office space. Or in the case of like a San Francisco and New York, you've got downtown space in close proximity to, tough areas like the Tenderloin, where you've just got a bunch of Looney Tune drug addicts and homeless people running around, and companies aren't wanting to lease more space there. It's going the other way. Nordstrom's is leaving. Everybody is leaving. Macy's is leaving. They're all leaving. And, some of them are honest and say, yeah, it's a matter of the safety of our employees. But some of them are saying, well, this just isn't meeting our corporate expectations for profit, meaning it's not making any money. Well, it's a terrible location and you're right to get out. The assessment cuts have the potential to cost the city, the county, and the Pittsburgh schools nearly $8.4 million in tax refunds for that year alone. Downtown represents nearly 25% of the city's overall tax base. So 25% of all the money that they collect comes from downtown. So that's why it's not just Pittsburgh. It's any major city, because they're all experiencing the same business environment out there, which is work from home has become super popular. And businesses have recognized, hey, we don't need as much space as we need. We can save on that space, have our employees work at home, pay our employees the same. They want to work from home. So you've got that going on. And then the interest rate environment, it's still really high relative to where so many of these buildings were purchased, maybe pre-pandemic, maybe 2018, maybe 2019. So to refinance those existing loans in today's interest rate environment, it's like Trump said, it's bloodbath. It's a bloodbath. I don't know if you followed that story at all. Man, the mainstream media made that out to sound, he's talking about the auto industry. It's going to be a bloodbath if I don't get elected. And the mainstream media took it as, well, if Trump doesn't get elected, he wants to promote violence, bloodbath, that whole thing. I mean, that's kind of some of the stuff that I don't report on it because it's like, this is so ridiculous. But the reason I'm bringing it up is you'll see, story after story after story. Trump is promoting violence. Trump is doing this. Trump is doing that. Well, if you watch the full context of his interview, he was talking about the auto industry and it'd be a bloodbath. And he's right. He's 100% right. I mean, if some of these things don't change, you're going to have industries that are going to have a bloodbath. Commercial office space is experiencing a bloodbath right now. We just haven't gotten to the point yet where we've had a ton of buildings go into receivership. We've got a ton of buildings like this article is talking about. Hey, you know what? We got 6 here. We got 5 here. These ones, oh yeah, their occupancy is way down. They've got some big debt that's coming due. It's got to do a little refinance action. But man, with the occupancy rate the way they have that now, their income stream, and then having to pay out in today's interest rates, mortgage rates, that is not looking good. So you've got all these buildings that are kind of on the watch list, and then you've got all these buildings that are on the default list. Maybe they've been turned over to a servicer who specializes in defaulting buildings. And so half of Pittsburgh doesn't surprise me. Could you see that happening in other areas? Absolutely. But then you've got the whole Pittsburgh deal with their police, right? You only got so many police officers. All right, so only 8% of our calls happen between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. So we're going to reduce the number of officers we have on call at that time down to about 20, down to like 20 for a city of 300 something thousand in the immediate metro, then much, much larger than that outside. So I'm sure that'll work out fine though. And it's some of the shows that I saw doing that story, they're like, the purge is coming. Tim Pool is like, I know what's going to happen between 3 and 7 a.m. These thieves and people who committing crime, they're going to do all their best work at those hours because they know the odds of them, even if they get busted doing what they're doing, having a cop called and come are going to be slim to none. So let the purge begin. Now, the police chief in Pittsburgh, he's having to make a decision. All right, well, we only got so many cops. What do we do? All right, we're going to have to chop them off here. Because they can't recruit enough. The city of Seattle's in the exact same boat. So you throw that whole police story in there alongside of the downtown commercial, and then you've got the issue of moving forward. Where is the city going to come up with its revenue? Because all of a sudden, just losing it left and right here in the downtown. And if these buildings do get defaulted, well, that becomes an even greater problem, right? Now they've got bankruptcies and you've got foreclosures. In addition, K&L Gates Center is facing a possible sheriff sale after a foreclosure by its lender. And the owner of the Grant building is trying to stave off a possible foreclosure after its lender claimed it defaulted on a $38 million loan after it failed to extend or renew the lease of a key tenant. One tenant is all it takes, because you get one big key tenant, an anchor tenant in a building, and they take off, they go somewhere. I was talking about yesterday, San Francisco. City of San Francisco isn't going to renew its own leases in one of its city buildings because that city building is so bad. It's across the street from City Hall. You've just got basically that tenderloin influence of, the whacked out druggies and homeless people. And it's not safe in that area. So the city of San Fran is literally not going to renew a lease on a building because they need to move because it's so bad. Yeah, we got to get to another part of town in our town because this is horrible and our employees are not safe. Well, how did it get to that way? How did it get to that way? Yeah, choices were made, policy was dictated, and things went sideways. And then you have just a whole bunch of shenanigans, right? So these aren't the only buildings downtown struggling to stay afloat amid high vacancies caused by COVID-19 pandemic and hybrid work policies. I think that was just the catalyst, right? Of, hey, maybe we can work from home. And folks are doing that. They're doing that in droves. Confidential real estate information obtained by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette estimates that 17 buildings are in significant distress and another 9 are in pending distress. Now, you guys are going to say, well, this is all planned. It's all planned. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. Then somebody's going to just come on in and buy those properties and make a killing. Well, some of the groups of landlords that are being foreclosed on right now were exactly those people that you're talking about. Now, they came in and they scooped up, all these properties and they're making a killing until this kind of downturn where you've got, a double whammy of those high interest rates and you don't have as many companies that need space anymore. So you've got this shrinkage of people that are running companies that are occupying these spaces. So those properties represent 63% of downtown office stock and account for $30.5 million in real estate taxes. All of this goes to, some people aren't going to be paying their taxes. Some people are going to be losing their buildings. And in Pittsburgh, half, right? Basically half. It also calculates the current office vacancy rate at 27% when subleases are factored in. Okay, 27% is very high. It's almost a third, right? Nowhere near as high as San Fran. And I think San Fran right now is 37%, on its way, if it's not there already, to 40%, which is just all-time high. Doesn't matter. That's an all-time high. Because what you've had is literally clearing out of these buildings and people working from home or working from a, WeWork situation. It's interesting. We got past the pandemic and then everybody is like, oh, yeah, well, I could wear a mask if I'm in a public setting, but I don't really need to. There's lots of people around. So let's just not worry about it. I'll go work in Starbucks. Remember how working in Starbucks 3-4 years ago was just off limits because Starbucks wasn't open to have people do that? Well, now you're dealing with the real reality, which is it's some high vacancy and that expected tax revenue just flat isn't there. And with an additional 3 million square feet of unoccupied lease space becoming available over the next 5 years, Things are just getting worse. And this, again, is not Pittsburgh. This is so many cities. We're looking at the sublease space in a lot of big metropolitan cities, and people are like, oh, good Lord, that's out there. That one's going to come due. That lease is going to end. That lease is going to end. Oh, not looking good. Things are not looking up, guys. So what's it going to take? Yeah, it's just going to take the cycle to keep going. You know, somebody's going to have to foreclose. Somebody's going to have to pick them up. Somebody's going to have to figure out, all right, what do I got to drop those rates down, those lease rates down to get people in there? And are there enough people to populate all this commercial office space? Well, right now, the answer is no. So where are they going to come from? Well, then maybe we shift it into converting into residential. All right, yeah, whatever. There's just so many issues with that. And people are trying to do that, but that's not going to solve the crisis. That is not the answer. The worrisome information has been circulating among some city council members, and apparently was one of the factors that led to the effort to broaden the tax abatements offered by the city. So this story is kind of about the tax abatements and how they're trying to, they're trying to bring people into the city or incentivize them to, take down space, build space, whatever it is. Without the tenants out there, it's a no-go. It's just a hard no-go. All the abatements in the world ain't going to work. They're not going to work because the shenanigans are already in place for this failure to occur as it is in real time as we're watching it. Like, how's that going to go? Oh, not good. Not good. Pittsburgh City Controller Rachel Heisler on Wednesday afternoon even took the step of sending a letter warning of the pending crisis to Mayor Ed Gainey and members of the City Council, saying that the combination of continued spending and reduced tax revenues puts the city on a direct path towards severe fiscal turmoil. Yeah. And that's the city's controller. Hey, guys, yeah, things aren't looking up. Don't know if you knew this, but you're still spending like this and your revenues are looking like this. So what are we going to do here, guys and girls? Let's not be sexist. I think that was about it. Yeah, that's the letter there. That letter. And then we talk about more of the, the incentives and, the whole issue is they don't have the ability to really work their way out of this. Because without those tenants, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Is the city going to lease all this space for, employees they don't have? Absolutely not. That's just not happening. So, federal bailout. Who gets the bailout? How's that work? What's that look like? When will interest rates drop? Not anytime soon, I don't think. Because I'm watching those residential rates because nobody is still refinancing on the appraisal end of things. They're just, why would you refinance into close to a 7% loan when you've got, 2 3/4, 3, 4, 5, even 6? You're not going to refinance unless you're desperate, take some cash out and go that route. And it's the exact same thing with the commercial, but worse because those commercial terms are pretty short. You've got those short little loan segments and they're used to rolling those over and doing that. But you're caught in this jam where you don't have the income to support, the numbers you're going after, and you don't have the tenants, accordingly. So it'll be interesting to see how many of these cities, how many of these stories actually go to a situation where it's, half of them are empty. Because what we're saying right now is that half of them could be empty. And because the writing is on the wall, all right, that's in distress. That one's vacant. That one's foreclosed on. Okay, we know those are the preliminary signs. But what happens? Is there a federal bailout? I don't know. Is there, a massive drop in the interest rate environment? Maybe. Is there a huge, all of a sudden, companies decide, what, that whole work from home thing, it's been saving us a lot of money, but we want to get morale back. We need to get our numbers back up. Let's go lease some space in downtown. Do you see that happening? I don't, because these companies save so much money on their real estate by not, leasing in these big spaces that have been 100% dedicated to let's bring in a whole bunch of companies in here. This will make our city go. So now you've taken out that segment and here you sit. So it'll be really interesting, you know, because these stories oftentimes say over the next 5 years, you're going to have this. Well, by, you know, in 4 years from now, half of the city is going to be vacant. Does that actually happen? In this case, with commercial real estate, I think there is a very high likelihood that you're going to see some massive fallout because there's no magic bullet to bring the deal back together because you don't have that. And with the interest rate whammy, that's just kind of, you know, icing on the cake in a really, really bad way because you don't have the ability to refinance in a lower rate, get that lower mortgage rate on a big mortgage that you need help with because you got fewer people paying your rent. Yeah, this will be an interesting one to follow moving forward. All right, so I'm going to do the outro here on this one. You guys are still here on the live stream. Tristan, we'll cut all this stuff. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Love to have you as a subscriber if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell, hit the like button if you found this content enjoyable or entertaining or whatever it is. Sharing with friends and family is a huge help because it lets the YouTube algorithm and all the other algorithms know, hey, this must be worth watching. Let's take a peek, see. Well, thanks in advance. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now. All right. Podcast number 2 in the books. I'm going to get, that Pittsburgh police deal. I'll be curious to see what's going on there. Still kind of working out what I'm going to do with these 3 stories. I'm going to go with this one. Does that scroll down and get us there? Yes, that does. All right, you guys can see what the headline is there. That's what we're talking about. See what you guys are saying. Scroll up about this. Yeah, fictional landlord shuts off the utilities. That whole thing where they make stuff up. It's just crazy. Bug bombs work on squatters as well as bugs. Interesting. That's good to know. Whatever it takes to get them out, right? Whatever it takes. All you need to do is change the locks. Well, yeah, sometimes. These tenants get in there and they do their thing and so hard to get out. Yep. Let's see what's going on here. You guys have had so many comments. I can't catch up. I am so far behind. You guys have hundreds of comments. Bill Big something Gates is the new farmer. All right. Okay. You guys got your own conversation. Go. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Okay. Let's get into this one. Colorado. So Tristan, here we go. Podcast numero tres. Colorado may soon allow unlimited roommates. So most counties, most cities have their own ability to say, all right, you got a home. You can only have 2 roommates, 3 roommates. You can only have this many folks occupying. Well, Colorado is going to say, no, get rid of all that. Just let as many people live in a home as possible. No limitations at all. I'm sure this will work out fine. You know where we're headed with this? Let's put that together with the legal immigrants and how does this all work out? Yep, that's what we're talking about right now. Let's get into it. Here we go. So here's some Tristan will cut and go from right there. Let's see if you guys can read that. Yeah. This is not our main article, but this is kind of some of the background. So I'm going to rip through a couple of articles here to get to our main one. Migrants overwhelming Mile High City and Mayor, Denver. Migrants have just basically, they're taking resources from tax-paying citizens, given the callous title of cold-hearted after refusing to ban homeless encampments in cold temperatures. Merciless Denver Mayor Mike Johnston is winning a new title called Cutthroat. With 40,000 migrants, almost 5% of the city's entire population, migrants arrived here from Venezuela and other places in the world in the last 12 months. Johnson has announced enormous cuts to city services, city services and hours due to the burden of migrants and its stress on city resources. So we know this is happening, but this is happening at a greater level in Denver because they've just gone so far into that sanctuary city. So, and this is on top of 4,000 homeless people. So double that, probably 8,000. You've already got 8,000 homeless people in Denver that are competing for the same shelter system, right? And then the increase in single year, a surge of 116% of homelessness in Denver. I mean, things are not looking great. Adding it up, the homeless population grew 32% in the 12-month period in the end of 2023. At least 311 homeless people died in Denver last year, more than any other year. And then it goes on to say, yep, we're shutting down the DMV. We're not doing the gardening. We're not putting in the flowers. They're cutting from the city budget to fund all of this ridiculousness of the illegal immigrants. You got city workers impacted, downturns at the DMV, saving versus spending. It's insane what you've got going on there. And you still got the same thing with the downtown commercial core that I just talked to you about. You've got a situation where your revenue it's not going the right way. It's going the wrong way. And then you've got another county nearby, Douglas County. I don't know if that's adjacent to Denver, but I think it's right there, right? Douglas County defies Colorado's sanctuary madness. So you've got one city, Denver, just going all in. And then you've got Douglas County saying, no, we're going to be responsible. They're basically putting a law in the books saying that ixnay on the illegal immigrants, don't drop them off here in buses. And there was one comment here that I saw that was pretty good. Where is that? I wanted to read that. Yeah. Here's somebody from Douglas County. We believe in leading with compassion, but it's not compassionate to bring migrants to a cold climate without the right resources and no place warm to stay. Keep that one in mind. No place warm to stay. Commissioner Abe Leiden said on Friday, we know why people want to come to America, and specifically Douglas County. Yet, we have a responsibility to honor those who do so through proper channels, and we welcome those who do. And the author says, well said. Well, so you don't have enough money for your own homeless issue. You don't have enough money to house all the migrants. What do? Well, let's go with, on a state level, let's have unlimited roommates. Hey, that 2-bedroom apartment, that now has 16 illegals living in it. How do you think that'll work out? Yeah. Can you say large-scale shenanigans? Yeah. So Colorado on a state level is trying to do this. And how's that going to go, right? How's that going to go? This was an article from Colorado Public Radio. So they do not bring up the issue of illegals at all. But you know damn well that's literally where this is going, right? Let's see. Let's come up with some ideas. We can put them in tents. Yeah. Colorado is pretty cold in the winter, right? So the whole tent thing isn't really going to work. All right. But we don't have enough for our own homeless people already. Okay, well, we're going to encourage them to, stay with constituents in the area. Well, that's not going to really work out. Let them rent an apartment and bring as many roommates in as humanly possible. Let's do that. Okay, all right. Large numbers of unrelated roommates could legally share homes in cities like Boulder and Fort Collins under a law progressing through the state legislature. Currently, dozens of cities in Colorado have occupancy limits that dictate how many unrelated people can live together. Most cities do, because you want to try and avoid exactly what they're doing here, which is let's just pull those restrictions off and we'll just have this free for all. We'll have, one big living, commune living type situation. Should be fine. Should be okay. In Fort Collins, it's a maximum of 3 people who aren't family members. In Boulder, depending on where you live, it's 5. The proposal at the State House would strike down or force changes to those local laws. So a state law usurps the local city law. This year's House measure, HB 24-10007, has passed crucial votes in the Senate and House. Not shocking, not shocking. The blue nature of Colorado. This is where you're going with that. And you're not going to hear much in the way of pushback on this, but you're going to hear why this is a genius, brilliant idea. Senator Julie Gonzalez, a Democratic sponsor of the measure, listed people the bill could help. 2 single parents coming together and raising their kids on their own. Really? We're going to go down that road. I've talked to people who live with their caretakers. Nobody is saying that you can't have a caretaker live with you. And you know what? If you have 3 people living in your place and it's only supposed to be 2 outside of your family, who's checking on this stuff? Nobody. That's not the issue. That's not the issue, right? We hear testimony from students who are trying to make ends meet, going together on an apartment. That's what this bill is all about. Students, those learning. Really? Is that what it's all about? This is what Gonzalez said. Okay, all right, yeah. And I understand. Denver has got one of the most expensive housing markets, and there's none of it available, right? Just not available. She and other supporters, Gonzalez and other supporters, argue that occupancy limits are unfair and arbitrary, except for public safety purposes. Sharing a house or apartment with multiple roommates can help people afford housing near their work or school, she said. And countless people are already sharing housing, whether or not it's legally allowed in their city. This is going in a direction that is not good. There's a reason you cap the number of people. Is you've got a little thing called zoning. You've got a little thing called people per bedroom. You've got a little thing called people per bathroom. And those are not even really terms. It's just common sense, right? Where are you going to have all those people parked? You got 18 people in an apartment and they're just coming and going. I mean, doesn't that sound like fun? Doesn't that sound like a fun time? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Shenanigans for days, right? I mean, that's what all of these policies are setting up for. And then they'll come back, 4 years later and go, good Lord, that was a terrible idea. Why are all these things happening? What is going on? That's Governor Newsom and any of the other politicians. How did we get here? What are you guys doing about this? What is going on? Yeah, I love it when you hear that, because you're like, you did that. That's on you. That's on you. So this kind of policy, let the parties begin, right? This should be called the House Party Bill. House Party Bill. Let's call it that. But the bill has faced the same criticism as other recent housing reforms. Opponents from both parties have argued that it will erode local control. You think so? You think it might have a little impact on that? Yeah. This ability of cities to set their own laws and policies to the detriment of current residents. Say you've got a Douglas County not willing to, play in the shenanigans of, hey, let's see how many millions of taxpayers' money we can spend on the illegals and then not spend them on, all the city services that we're having to cut because we can't afford all this ridiculousness. Occupancy limits can be especially contentious in college towns. I get that. You don't want to have 1 million college kids, living in an apartment unit. And that's what this is supposed to prevent. But you also don't want to have 1 million illegals living in an apartment complex, just doing their thing. no driver's license, possibly no job. I mean, just they're out there doing their thing. I'm not saying that all of them are bad, but that's clearly what you've got going on here, right? That's what you've got going on here. How can we get as many illegals into our communities as humanly possible and not have some of these, outliers like Douglas County say, no, well, here's how we do it, state level. Of course, if this thing goes through, of course, there'll be a lawsuit, right? Multiple lawsuits. So, hey, the Supreme Court said no go on Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas on his bill that he passed in the state that basically said we're going to take over border protection. That was there's a stay on that. That'll be worked through the court system. And that's what I predicted would happen. There's no way Supreme Court is going to do that. But I think what they said is that they put a stay on the issue right now, meaning that bill won't take effect. Texas won't be able to arrest people and willy-nilly throw them in jail, although I wish they could. Texas as a state won't be able to do their own thing at the border. Still going to have to be federal policy. But what the Supreme Court basically said is we just haven't had enough time to issue a ruling here. So we're going to put this on hold for a while. Give us some more time to get what we're kind of thinking together so we can come up with a ruling. That's kind of where you sit. So get some water here. We can still save property values in Peru. It's interesting. Chicken blood and feathers everywhere. That sounds like, what was that Mickey Rourke and Lisa Bonet movie? That was a good movie. That was wild. Yeah. It had an X rating at the beginning and then they cut it down to, what was that? Yeah, you guys will let me know. Okay, here we go. We're going to keep going here. So Tristan, cut out all that nonsense and let's go with, okay. In Boulder, where there are more than 33,000 students attending CU Boulder, voters rejected the idea of abolishing occupancy limits in 2021 in a 52-48 vote. The state's going to control our property rights. Doesn't that bother you? It should. It really should, said Senator Joanne Guinal, a Democrat from Fort Collins. She argued that large investment companies would swoop in to buy up single-family properties and start renting them to large groups of tenants. You know what? I don't think they will, because the issues of tearing the homes apart override that stream of income from a corporate standpoint. That's a nightmare, what you're proposing there. You're better off proposing, because there's such a limited supply, you can handpick your tenants. And that's one thing that in the video I shot of the tenant protest or the landlord protest, whatever you want to call it, was the fact that if you've got a property and you want to try and help somebody out who has bad credit, or you want to try and help somebody out who's got an income stream that isn't exactly consistent, maybe they're a little bit down on their luck. You know what? With the inability to quickly evict folks in a lot of states and a lot of cities and a lot of areas, there's no incentive to rent to somebody who you're taking a chance on. You might as well rent to those with golden credit, a big, chunk of money to go first, last, and, damage deposit. You have, as a landlord, you have the ability to rent to whomever you want, because there's such a housing shortage crisis throughout all of the United States, not just in some of these communities, but we've been behind by millions and millions and millions of units, and we're just not getting there. And so I know I'm going on a little bit of a real estate rant here, but it's appropriate. And so some of the other things to tie in there is the National Association of Realtors just 418 million, 400 and something million they're going to pay out on a lawsuit. It's about commissions. And people are saying, well, now the prices are going to come down on the homes. Prices are going to drop. Most MLSs have already recognized the lawsuit and the outcome of that lawsuit by kind of predicting it. All right, if this goes sideways, this is what our policy is going to be. My MLS did that And so nothing's really going to change much at all. But the overriding factor in today's residential real estate market is you don't have enough supply. So it almost doesn't matter what happens with real estate commissions. All right, real estate commissions are going to drop from 6%, maybe 5 to 6%, down to 2 to 3%. Well, you still don't have enough on the market. So every property that comes on is going to get bid up. And you've got a buyer pool that's been shrunk by interest rates, but there's still enough buyers out there where you've got multiple offer situations and everybody knows it. So whatever happens with these other little situations, you're not going to have large investment companies coming, swooping in and renting out to large groups of tenants. You're going to have some of that go on, but it's probably going to be more by the absolute slumlords. And that's what I think this state is looking to, all right, how can we get as many of these illegals into housing that we don't have to, directly pay for? Maybe we help out the main tenant and they have literally like the guy in New York City who had 80 people, somewhere between 72 and 80 people in the basement of his furniture shop in, was that Queens or New York City? Somewhere right there. It was New York City somewhere. But I had somebody tell me, Sean, it's not that. It's this borough. My New York City is, I'm a Seattle guy, right? West Coast, best coast. We're just going to leave it at that. Neighborhoods are just going to go downhill, she added. I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. If you put this in place, neighborhoods are going to go downhill because you're just going to have a free-for-all. You're going to have a free-for-all, not only college kids, but anybody who can't necessarily afford what they need to. They're just going to go in these homes and these apartment complexes and yeah, is what we're doing. And you can't stop us because it's the state law. John Goldman of the Daniels Westchester Neighborhood Association in Jefferson County said an overoccupied home had ruined a cul-de-sac in his neighborhood, leading other families to move out. Angel Heart was the name of that movie. Angel Heart. I got it. I know it. Angel Heart. Tristan probably cut that out, but live stream people. Yeah, they heard it. They know what's up. They know what's happening. So everybody's got an example. So Tristan cut and we'll go with here. Everybody's got an example of that one home that gets rented out and there's 14 people living in it. I had a house, one of my rental properties down in Renton before the Great Recession separated me from it. How's that for saying, was it a foreclosure or was it a short sale? I think we did a short sale on that one. I can't remember. Property just tanked, just awful. Going through a divorce. I lost a bunch of property, as you do. Live and let learn, right? But I had a situation where I didn't know the tenants had brought in 18 different of their family members because whenever I'd go by during the day, they were all out at work. They were all out at work. And then the neighbors came over to talk to me and they were not pleased. They were not pleased. Hey, Sean, how many people did you lease out to? And I said, 4, a husband and wife or something like that and their 2 kids. And, well, I got all these people and they're throwing these big parties and on the weekends, it's just this. And it's like, what a nightmare. So everybody's got that, home in their area or city, town, whatever, community where somebody does that. They get 16 cars all in the driveway in various stages of being fixed or rebuilt or, whatever it is. That to me, that's the end result of this. The home has 7 mailboxes displaying 20 names, and the county says there's nothing they can do, he told lawmakers, because it's a civil deal, right? And you throw in one of these laws, let the shenanigans just take off. Let them just, yeah. It feels like this is all stuff to just break down society, doesn't it? Oh, we're doing this to make everybody feel better. It's going to be greater for the community. And all you can think of is, no, that's not. That's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Don't go down that road. In contrast, cooperatives like Mango Manor in Boulder, where do you live? I live at Mango Manor. It's a cooperative. Yeah. Have tried to show the power of living together. It's a hard daily pill to swallow, seeing the incongruency of high housing need alongside so much empty space, said Alexis Hermes, a caregiver for adults with dementia and Alzheimer's in Boulder. I finally found a cooperative home that offers affordable housing, a car share system, access to public transportation, shared labor, communication structures, and shared spouses. I made up that last part. But isn't that what your mind always goes to? Hey, you're living in a commune. I saw in the 60s, they free love, right? I mean, so my spouse is your spouse is my spouse, and we all just live in this, unity and bonding of communal living. It just never really set in with me, right? Yeah, that's not really how things are supposed to go. But if you want to try that, that's your thing. Hermes said, moving in with a dozen people was scary at first, but the change had saved her. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do a little slow-mo on that. Hermes said, moving in with a dozen people was scary at first. I don't know about you. I like my privacy. Yeah. I like being able to go home and, it's my house. Nobody's effed with it. It's going to, dozen people. I'm sure that works out fine. University students also testified in favor of the bill. So a third-year student at Colorado State University said Fort Collins' U+2 laws had made the competition for rentals even more intense, guaranteeing she would move on after graduation. Maybe if you cap it at 4, 5 people, I don't know. What's reasonable? It sounds like they need a little bit more of a lifting of that cap, but taking that cap all the way off, that should be exciting, right? That could be an exciting time. Hey, what's going to happen? I don't know. Let's get out the popcorn. Watch this one. Watch this dumpster fire happen. So the college student goes on to say, I simply can't afford to live there with the rising housing costs without more than 2 roommates. All right. Okay. And college students, yeah, they've got the, that whole income issue, but you're talking about a situation where I think you're going to have a lot of working people. And by working people, I mean, whatever jobs that these illegals are going to be able to get into off the books, cash, you name it, whatever. These people are going to have money. They're going to have money, just not a ton of money. And these kind of situations, this is what we're looking at. This is exactly why this kind of thing is going in. But how much have we talked about that throughout this article? The big Zippo, the big goose egg? None. It's hard to say how much this will change if the bill passes. It'll just create a situation where this kind of, putting 1 million people into an apartment, putting 1 million people into a home is legal, and then it becomes accepted and it becomes okay. And it literally destroys the fabric of that community. And the individual, cities and towns aren't going to be able to do anything about it because it's Colorado state law. State always kind of, does that thing where this is the greatest thing for all of us, right? It could affect the laws of some 24 cities across Colorado, according to the Colorado Municipal League. In Boulder, the city has received about 150 complaints related to occupancy limits over 5 years. So this isn't a huge deal. Otherwise, you'd have thousands of complaints. This is a deal to allow 1 million people to occupy one residence, one apartment, one boarding house, whatever it is that you want. It's okay. It'll be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. It's like, at the beginning of the whole homeless thing, when it really started to ramp up, it's okay to let them live out there. They're just living their best lives. It's not a problem. Handful of years later, after, we've gone through what that looks like on broad scale. Yeah, it just wasn't a great idea, but it's on the books, so we can't go back now. Under the new bill, cities would still be allowed to set occupancy limits based on demonstrated health and safety standards, such as International Building Code standards, fire code regulations, or Colorado Department of Public Health and environmental wastewater and water quality standards. Do you think any of that is actually going to be observed? No. They're just going to go, look at the state law. Everybody, commune style, let's go. Bring your wife, bring your husband. It's going to be great. The measure is is part of a much bigger debate over individual and communal rights. They go on to start talking about land use reformers. Republicans and other opponents, on the other hand, say that property rights aren't just about one's own parcel of land. Absolutely, that is 100% correct, because what you do with your parcel impacts others, right? Cities and neighborhoods should have the right to set standards, they say, even if it limits the actions of individuals. Absolutely. because this whole thing with the state never makes any, genius decisions, right? For the most part, especially not in these big blue states. We know how that goes. Now in Texas, I'm going to say, yeah, there's been some pretty darn good decisions. That whole take it back from the federal, Customs and Border Protection, take back the, southwest border throughout Texas. That's a pretty good one. But what we're talking about here, it's got the flip effect. You got that big blue state going, it's the greatest thing ever. This should work out fine. This should work out fine. So I don't think there's anything else kind of left here. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook and nonsense. This is a bill that has not gone into, discriminatory occupancy limits. Discriminatory, of course. Let's just throw the whole discriminatory thing in there, and then we'll call it racism and racist, and we'll just kind of go down that road. But, does it shock you? Is it surprising that Colorado is doing this? No. And if Colorado does this, other states are going to follow. Hey, bring those occupancy restrictions down. Get as many people in here as we can. State doesn't have to pay for it, or the state subsidizes a little bit of rent. They've got it covered. Hey, we can bring more migrants in, more illegals. Yeah. That's, to me, where this is kind of headed. That's where I kind of felt looking at this, because it doesn't justify 150 complaints in that one area. Doesn't justify, let's just rip off the current standard of only 2 people and 2 kids. There's a reason those things are in play. There's a reason those things have been, in communities forever. It's because you're only meant to have a certain amount with the resources you have, and the roadway system and the sewer system, and utility system, and, all of that good stuff. It's regulated for a reason. And if you go down one of these willy-nilly, let's just see what the shenanigans we can come up with, you're going to find some. It's going to be pretty nutty. All right. The beauty is if this becomes a bill, we've got more content for the podcast, right? All right. So I'm going to end this one. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for being a part of this community. It's a community. We do premieres every morning, Monday through Friday. I am at most all of those. You can also check us out here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 o'clock, all the times that I indicate. Those are West Coast times, Seattle times. We've got live streams Tuesday and Thursday. Why did I say Monday? No idea. Tuesday and Thursday at 11 o'clock Seattle time, we're live streaming, and I'm doing 3 podcasts, a live stream. And if you want to send me a message, if you want to chat with me, I look at comments every now and then. So thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye for now. All right. See what you guys are talking about. See what's going on. I'm going to back up a little. We got a little reaction in there. Scorch, I agree. 20 people packed into a 1-bedroom is next level shenanigans. Let's figure that out. So 1 bedroom, 500 square feet. You want to say that? So, how many people? 20? So 4, what is that per person? That's packed. That is packed. And it kind of goes along the lines with 80 people in that one guy's basement of the furniture store, and there's only like 14 beds out. Where are they all going to go? Don't care. That's where they're all living. Maybe they work, half of them work graveyard shift. What are they doing? We don't even know. Let's see what else you've got going on here. It's a fire hazard? Absolutely. Fire hazard? You bet. I mean, so many different things. Health hazard, right? Health hazard. You get too many people living someplace. How often is the toilet going to get clogged up? Yeah. All right. I live next to a family of Hispanics. Might as well have migrant, beer, accordions, and deep bass all night. Yeah, that's sometimes going to happen, right? You're going to, and the folks that are living in these lease situations, do you think they're going to be real rule followers? You got 20 people living in a 1-bedroom. Do you think those are your rule followers? Some of them are going to be. Let's not throw them all under the bus, but a lot of them are not going to be. So some of the extra members, some of the extra family members who are not on the lease are not biological family members. They're people that your tenants met in a migrant caravan. That's so true. It's so true. Yeah, people like their privacy, right? We must go back to the planet. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just so many different ways that this could go sideways, and it will. And, that's to be expected. You're just going to have this kind of ridiculousness. And so that's why I'm kind of doing so many of these podcasts, because I think there's a whole level of just shenanigans that are being implemented right now because people are reacting. Okay, so we became sanctuary cities and we don't have a place for all these people to go to. What can we do? They're doing all these shortcuts that are literally they're just going to blow up, right? They're just going to blow up because that's what bad policy does. I like my privacy too. Yep, me too. You guys have got some good conversations going on here. John has a safe business model. I don't see these shenanigans getting better. It's like I say, shenanigans for days, right? Shenanigans for days. And to me, it's so true. I'm going to have Seattle's going to cut down on some of its shenanigans because they've actually got some reasonable people in the city council. But you're already stuck with all of the Looney Tune drug addicts that are here and homeless folks that are here that have come for the Seattle experience. So you're going to have to work that out. But, some of the ongoing just terrible decision-making and terrible policy-making, that's getting kind of worked out in Seattle, but the impacts are already here. So moving forward, it's going to be years. And most of these cities, most of these states are not going to go down that reasonable approach, are they? No, because let's just keep trying the same thing over and over again. If we could just spend some more money on the homeless issue, we'll solve it. It's like our King County Regional Housing Authority guy here who got fired because he did a terrible job. He was just awful. He got a budget of $250 million, and he quotes $11.5 billion to save the homeless issue, to build enough housing right now to square away all that. I mean, what a terrible idea. What a terrible idea. That would have never worked out. So they fired his ass. And he was terrible. Mark Don't. It was Mark Dones was his name, but I call him Don't. Because he don't work no more at the city of Seattle. But you've got stuff like that going on. I'm going to have podcasts, I think, for as long as I want. I'm just going to cherry pick topic after topic. That's why I try and throw in, topics that kind of work together and have, varying different levels of interconnectedness. Because I think so much of this is interconnected. Has your mailbox been robbed in my area? Yes. My mailbox, busy girl, is that you, busy girl? Yeah, busy girl. Yes. My mailbox in Bellevue has been rocked 4 or 5 times. They have pried open. I've got a big security box, and I live in a cul-de-sac, but the street to get to my cul-de-sac is off of a main street, and then there's a bus right there. So I think what happens is folks from the bus, waiting for the bus, walk down, jack the mailbox, and then walk back to the bus, take their bus back over to Seattle. I don't know, because other people in my community, they haven't had their mailboxes, further interior, haven't had their mailboxes torn apart. But I have virtually no mail going to my mailbox. I have it all going to the office because I knew this was a problem. And this is a problem happening all over. And I live in Bellevue, in Seattle. Last time I was over in Seattle with one of my guys, we were taking a look at Aurora Avenue North just to see what was going on in Aurora Avenue North. Just needed to see the scenery, see what was happening. Yeah, it was some scenery, all right. It was just, it was not good. It's where all the prostitutes are, and they literally walk around with virtually nothing on. But on our way back from that little sightseeing tour, we didn't air any of that content because it was like, I don't think YouTube's definitely not gonna like that. Nope, we can't air that. Nope. All right, let's just go home. We saw a guy just on Aurora, just jacking multiple mailboxes, just taking the mail out, and it's just become a thing, right? Taking people's mail, stealing people's mail. So yeah, I have had that happen, and it's really annoying. The other option is, you get a PO box, but you should be able to get your own mail, right? That's a no-go here in Bellevue. It's a no-go in Seattle in 2024. I don't have anything of value sent there. I actually, the first time I got jacked, I think my tabs got mailed there, and for my car or my boat or something. And I was like, gosh darn it. All right, well, they've got the title or they've got the registration. What a nightmare. But I switched all my mail over and don't get any of that at mailbox card. Yeah, what a drag. To have to do that. I mean, it just sucks, doesn't it? It sucks. All right, I got to go do some real estate biz stuff, so I'm going to leave you guys. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being on this live stream. I will catch up with you in the next one. That will be Thursday. And thanks for being here. So again, appreciate your participating in this environment, and I hope you're enjoying it. So thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.